We are clicking pictures, we are, and the entire purpose of those pictures is to post it somewhere, is to tell the world, here I am with who I am, doing what I am doing, instead of being in the moment completely with you and your people.
It's the addiction. We want to take away we want to de-addict them. There is more to life than playing games on Roblox with your friends or being on social media, watching incessant amount of reels or TikTok videos. After a certain point, it's detrimental to their mental development, to their social development, to their physical development, to their just overall human development as well.
Hello, friends. Welcome again to B Cubed, Breaking Boundaries with Sabeer Bhatia. And this time we bring you an episode on a very interesting subject. I'm sure of great interest to most of you. Children, kids, and devices. We live in a world where an entire generation of children is being brought up, fed upon devices and content from devices. For this, we have a very special guest with us today, Charu Malhotra. Charu, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Charu Malhotra is co-founder and managing director at Primus Partners. She is a development professional with diverse experience for over 25 years in social infrastructure, digital transformation, communication technologies, education policy and design, child development, gender, skill development, entrepreneurship, rural development, impact, and CSR. She has worked with governments, education ecosystems, rural communities, teachers, children, and women. And very interestingly, in her public persona, she's also known as a Vedic astrologer, a prolific speaker on development issues, and an actor, a former actor, stage and film actor. So thank you, viewers, for being here with us. Charu, the first question I would like to put to you is, what are the potential developmental impacts of device addiction in children, in little children?
So let me begin this with what educational psychologists have been speaking about in terms of socialization and learning. So we have people like Bronfenbrenner and Vygotsky who spoke about the importance and value of human interactions in learning situations. And there were some studies done. There were MRI scans taken of 8 to 12-year-olds, which showed that the stronger reading circuits happened when these children actually read paper books as opposed to screen-based reading. There were some other studies which were also done around 3 to 4-year-olds, and where increased activation happened in the language region of the brain when adults read books, paper books, with children, with these 3 to 4-year-olds, when as compared to audio books or even reading on the tab. Now, this also shows the importance of human interactions. It shows the importance of engagement, empathy, creativity. When we have a rich soil of human interactions, of outdoor play, reading books, exploring the environment, we find the learning outcomes are far more enhanced than when just kids are engaging with the screen.
Sabeer?
No, I think it's a serious problem. The question you asked was, what effect does this have on children? And I think children are growing up completely differently than the way we grew up, because they're addicted to devices. They wake up in the morning and the first thing they want to do is get on their devices. So it's a big problem, in my humble opinion. And we really have to find ways of distracting them from being addicted to these devices.
So as you said, Charu, I mean, the brain scans show that children who are exposed to normal reading of books and being read to by others, it's a much cleaner scan than those children who have totally depended upon consumption from devices. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. In fact, in my opinion, in my experience, not just with my own kids, but in the education programs I designed and worked with school children and teachers, I have always observed and maintained that when children are made to learn in the manner that they socialize, they learn far better. So that's why, pedagogy emphasizes a lot on group discussions, excursions, field trips, and gamification of learning. And not just gamification as we understand it in terms of digital gamification, but actually simulating real life scenarios within the classroom, and interaction between students and interaction between students and teachers. However, rules of socialization and tools of socialization have also undergone a change today. There is so much of time that students are spending on social media handles. And while it's a great thing, but the devil lies in the data. There is a boom of data consumption today. And it's been noticed that around 28%, 28 hours a week, young people are spending on their mobiles, and 45% of that time is spent on entertainment.
Now that's a bad ratio there.
No, I think there's nothing wrong with it. But if you see, even look at your own, your own experiences when you're traveling with your family, or we are, celebrating a social event. We're spending time with friends, just chilling. And a lot of that is then seen through the lens of the phone camera. We are clicking pictures, we are, and the entire purpose of those pictures is to post it somewhere. Is to tell the world, here I am with who I am, doing what I am doing, instead of being in the moment completely with you and your people.
So enhancing the ego, essentially.
Yeah, it's also
and narcissism.
Yeah, we are all screenagers, and when we grew up, as Sabeer you said, our homes were largely single TV homes, and the television in India also came, the color television, after a long time, and that moved on to multiple screens. Not just television, but there's laptop, there is a tablet, there are computers and phones, and we hardly ever switch off our phone. We don't go off the grid unless we are in air, or our phone is lacking charge. So we don't switch off. We don't switch off mentally. We don't switch off in terms of a device, and we're just consuming data, consuming content, and just feasting. So it's like it's a data party. It's an AI party today happening.
We're all addicted.
Well,
we're all
high on data.
Yes.
Instead of being high on cocaine, we're high on data.
That's not only children, that's us as well.
In fact, the problem lies with adults, I would feel, because kids still get monitored in school by their teachers, at home by parents. It's us adults who are actually setting the example. In the same house, the family members are chatting with each other on, on chat, on WhatsApp.
Okay, so that is the problem. Now, the solution comes, we're talking about children, getting back to children. The problem we've understood. How do we address the problem? I see two areas where the problem can be at least one can make an effort, attempt to address or solve the problem. One is the home and the other is the school, clearly. So let's start with the home, let's start with parents. What role can parents play in supervising this, and would it lead to a conflict and dissonance between a parent children dissonance?
Oh yes, I think it would lead to a whole lot of arguments. I mean, not just discipline around using devices, but you have family, kids getting their, if they have phones, to the dining table, and you tell them, no, okay, phones off the table, and just a minute, 5 minutes, and it will lead to arguments. But I think it's important, just the way we would prevent them from harming themselves in any other way. I mean, there is a discipline about not consuming alcohol before the right drinking age. You don't drive before you are entitled to your driving license. I think this, device discipline also can be enforced in a similar manner. It's done in schools, in exam halls. And if we can do it in some situations, I'm sure it'll mean a little bit of discomfort, both for the parents as well as the students. But then it'll just have to be done if it has to be done.
So in schools now, though there is, it has been enforced, and in a lot of schools, most schools perhaps, children are not allowed to carry phones. But there's something nefarious that's happening. You know, children do carry mobile phones, and they happen to do certain things with their mobile phones, which are very, very incorrect.
Yeah, and they do get caught as well, and they do get
yes.
punished.
So
So that will continue.
that will
But
continue.
what I feel, in fact, just the other day, I was with some government school children. These were students of grade 10, 11, 12, and even grade 9. And as you know, the class 12 results were out. So we were just, I was in a conversation with them. And I asked them, have you heard of AI? And they said, yes. And then I said, have you heard of ChatGPT? They said, yes. I said, do you use ChatGPT? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And must have been around 40 kids in the room, and it's not because you're studying in a private school or a public school, in rural environments, urban. I'm sure there are differences, and the degree to which usage is happening depends on opportunity of access as well as connectivity that's around you. But I think it's very aspirational. I think it's very empowering for young people to get on a device. But I think they also need to be told about the ethics and the dangers. So they use ChatGPT or any other chatbot for their assignments. But what is happening, like it is happening with generative AI, it is throwing you selective information. And that information may be inaccurate in some ways. Students many times may or may not verify the data that is getting generated. But it's easy to consume because you're on a device. And it's very tempting, to not do, because it's easy and it's lazy, to be able to use these tools to do your homework for you. Or even people at work today are using such tools. But then they're not contextualizing the content, they are not interpreting that content. A lot of it has to do with critical thinking. It has to do with reasoning, it has to do with logic. And my concern is not so much as in how much you're using devices, or if you're using, whatever tools and apps and softwares. I have a problem about, are you thinking? Or are you actually dumbing your thinking processes? So I think the concern lies there in how to use, yes, of course, how much to use, but I don't think we should shoot the gadgets themselves. We should be looking more at in terms of what is the good and what is the advantage we can extract in the best manner possible, which doesn't harm our children.
Sabeer, what do you have to say? Because this goes into the realm of AI, and we talk about Chat GPT, etc., and culling out information, then access to dark web and all that, especially with regard to underage teenagers, and children, adolescents. So, what would you?
So the first, I think, thing is about the mechanism by which we teach children how to be responsible users of devices. So one is the stick method, which is screen time. We limit the amount of screen time they have, per day or per week or per weekend, whatever the case may be. I have a different strategy, which is to actually give them the carrot, which is to distract them by taking them out of their zones. So what I have done with my kids, and I'm no different from any other parent, is I take them golfing. So I've introduced them to the world of golf. And 8 and 9-year-olds, they play golf with me. And they have taken a liking to the sport. So whenever I see them on their screens on the weekend, I give them the carrot that let's go play golf or let's go cycling. And, so you've got to positively develop the love for sports, love for reading, love for outdoors, love for socializing in a positive manner, in a way kind of, offering them an alternative to just being on their screens, because they are addicted. And, no matter how much of enforcement we do, I mean, yesterday I was talking to somebody who said that their 3-year-old nephew is addicted. So this is only going to get more, more serious. And in order to curtail it, we've got to devise distraction strategies rather than enforcement
I
strategies.
totally agree with you. If you tell somebody do not do this, that's the first thing they are bound to do.
That's correct.
Right? And you'll never be able to wean them off.
That's it.
But I think for that, I think adults and parents too need to, put their phones aside or put their computers aside.
When I'm playing golf, I'm not looking at my
Yes,
phone.
yes.
When I'm cycling, I'm certainly not looking at my
Swimming.
phone. Or swimming, same thing. So I'm trying to, draw them out that way. I take them to obviously kids' parties, which there are no phones. They play with their friends. So trying to, artificially increase their play times with their, their peers, their friends, their circle, buddies, I think is what we have to do.
So let me ask Sabeer a question actually. Sabeer, you've been, speaking about the creative economy and getting students to explore, because of the whole entrepreneurship program, the series that you've been speaking about. And for tools, for creative tools on, on digital tools, how would that be impacted if we are to draw their attention away from?
No, they're mutually exclusive. It's like they don't become computer illiterate because they don't spend 24 hours on the computer or on a device. We just limit it to 4 hours
So
or
basically,
5 hours.
it's the addiction aspect.
It's the addiction. We want to take away we want to de-addict them, if there is such a word. Not so much make them computer illiterate. That's not my whole point. When I'm distracting them from playing golf, I'm like, there is more to life than playing games on Roblox with your friends or being on social media, watching incessant amount of reels or TikTok videos. That is not, after a certain point, it's detrimental to their mental development, to their social development, to their physical development, to their, just overall human development as well.
So I think it's also a function of the entire environment today. So let me share with you. Primus Partners, we conducted a survey and we published a report, on Viksit Bharat, India's turn to lead the world by 2047. And we conducted 2,047 interviews across 25 states and union territories in the country. And we met people through these interviews, in rural India, urban India, young people, old people, corporate executives, housewives from, rural and urban India, young students. So 24 personas like this. And one group who we called Builders of Tomorrow, falling in the age group of 12 to 24 years. And I'll just summarize, what many of them kind of in different words put across. They face a challenge, or they reckon they face a challenge in balancing the academic pressure with worries about personal development and the need to keep pace with rapid technology advancement and the resultant job market that will emerge. And some of them voiced that they planned to adapt to this changing environment with, constant learning and, through constant learning and apprising themselves, keeping abreast with the new technologies. Now, in an environment such as this, one of course is how much away can we keep them away from the lure of gadgets? And secondly, if they do not, that's the fear that all of us are talking about today, that if your entire life experience has to shrink into a mobile screen or a laptop screen, then how will this constant adjustment happen? I think we won't have any ready answers for that, but it's a concern that we must put out for schools, teachers, parents, families, and students themselves to solve for.
So yeah, you made a very interesting point. How do children of today balance the workloads from their traditional education, all the technology advancements, and their both their social media presence and their physical relationships with their friends. I know there's a lot that is being thrown at them. And I think that we are moving into a different age where I think the traditional education that we have emphasized all along and our parents emphasize on us is going to play less and less of a role in their overall development. Because frankly, traditional education is outdated. I mean, I have gone to some of the finest universities on the planet, including BITS Pilani here, Caltech, Stanford. Nothing that I studied in my formal education process, nothing did I ever use in my life. And I think I've done all right, And the other part about human life is technology is moving at such a rapid pace that, if anything, the traditional systems of education are holding us back, because whatever we learn becomes obsolete by the time we get out of college. So I think we've got to encourage people, and especially the younger generation, to embrace this new technology wholeheartedly and to adapt to it and to learn the skills that they need to learn.
I'll beg to differ there. I have a different take on this. So I don't think what you learnt you don't use. It's not the content. It is the process of learning, and it's a building block. So today what you are, pardon me for saying so, but it would be a sum total of all your experiences. And it's very difficult to, to ascribe or to attribute what we have learned is despite or in spite of something. So I think traditional learning methods have their merit. I am a great believer in some. For example, our whole neurological processes, our whole cognitive processes. There is a lot of merit, for example, tables, learning math tables. We are able to do some quick calculations because somebody made us practice our tables, and I still remember only up to 13, but our parents probably did, 13.5, 12.5. So I think there is a lot of merit in the way, for example, we learn language. And you learn language, which is listening, reading, speaking, reading, writing skills, by imbibing everything in your environment. And that's how we in fact learn our mother tongue. So I wouldn't dismiss traditional learning methods. Yes, I think what we need to do is we need to not emphasize so much on content. We need to emphasize on concepts. We need to emphasize on competencies and skills. And that's how we should be driving our whole learning outcomes, the way we assess those learning outcomes and the way we teach for those learning outcomes.
Yeah, the method of teaching has to change.
Yes, the whole pedagogy needs to.
So I think the method of teaching, where there is a classroom, there is a board, and stuff is written on the board, and students write it down and study it and regurgitate in an exam, that process is broken.
So rote learning, for sure. In fact, India is moving away from rote learning, at least in intent and in policy. We are moving from rote learning to competency-based curriculum and competency-based assessments. In fact, a lot of our work is currently in this space, where we are, defining what are the competencies and skills, and moving from lower order thinking skills to middle order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. And that's where I agree with you.
So, for example, I've seen this occur in my children. In school, all they do is do projects. They just work with each other, and there's no formal learning. It's just social interaction. It's a fun environment. They do an art project, they do a physical project, or they do a collaborative, growing food from the soil kind of project. And then they come home and they're given a problem set, and the problems are also mathematics, but in the form of a real world example.
Totally. I think we need those real life connections. Yeah. And as you say, whether it's a project based learning or it's experiential learning or case studies, but it should be linked to your environment and to a context that you may or may not be familiar with.
And they don't have tests. They're not experts at acing tests. Here we at least when I grew up, The most important thing is to ace the test. And the teaching, all the teachers were
You're teaching to the test. Yes.
incented to seeing that I aced the test, and that was just memorization and regurgitation. I was an expert at that, but did I really pick up stuff? I really started learning when I went to the US, when I went to Caltech, because that's when I was, taught to learn by inquiry as opposed to being given a whole bunch of content and data and said, study this and this will help you. No, it's like, study whatever you want to. Come for the exam. If you can answer the questions, you're good.
So I think that's what the intent here is today as well, inquiry-based learning. Although I don't know how many classrooms move through that road and reach inquiry, but I'm sure there are a lot of classrooms and a lot of teachers who are attempting to do that. But my concern, coming back to our topic for today, is that also a lot to do with mental health and mental well-being.
I was going to come to that. That was my next
Sorry,
point.
I preempted you.
No, but I was going to introduce it, preluding that with the thought that, by the end of the day, when we're talking about children, kids, and devices, I think the real role is that of the parent. Sabeer spoke about taking his children for golf. Now, he is an indulgent parent. He's a very responsible parent. So, parents need to be responsible. Parents need to take time out for their children. It is only then that those kind of things can happen. And also, if they don't take time out, a lot of time out, they should at least have enough time to be able to instruct their children about what is wrong with spending too much of time on devices. So that's one. And second is mental health. This is because eventually mental health of nascent mind, those are very nascent formative minds, and it is at that point in time that mental health is very important. Anxiety, depression, stress, fear, all kinds of negative things are important. This is, would you like to?
Yes. So when you're on a device and if you happen to be connected on the internet, you are going to be, thrown information, thrown content, which may be not very conducive to, a very balanced mental well-being. There's a lot of cacophony. There are a lot of opinions, half-baked opinions. There is a lot of propaganda, whether it's cultural, social, political. There is a lot of propaganda that is being fed, and they're feeding on our biases. And for students, because it's a mindset which is still being shaped and nurtured. It's still a young mindset. Now, that mind has to absorb balance and then make some sort of sense out of all the noise that is around us. And for that particular reason, not so much for the device itself, because you can do several good things on that device, but it is the kind of rubbish that is being fed at you, and more so generative AI. It is going to be, if you're going to be, it's too much of a temptation not to watch content. I mean, why am I on that phone, on that tab? It's not just learning, it's not just, it's not always in an educative mode, it's entertainment and grappling with that noise. So I think the very fact that we need to have some hygiene in using such devices, whether it is, having firewalls or not having internet and data available to the children for some, and just use it for what you've been given that device for. I think some sort of balance needs to be struck there.
Absolutely. What are the signs that one should look for in children? Signs of, stress because of consumption of devices.
I have experience. So, okay, let's just look at the kind of news and, the stuff that goes on any television screen. There's so many moving images. You just watch any news channel today or any channel. There is something happening on a ticker. There is some, ad coming in. Then there is, there's a pre-roll of ad, and then there is a mid-roll. So the child's attention is being broken. you're not even watching content at a go. If it's okay, if you're just watching film or if you're watching content. So first of all, your attention gets broken by so many of these distractions. Moving images, lots of messages on the screen, little advertisements, digital marketing. There is so much confusion on even the screen that the child is watching. Clutter. And that will hamper your span of attention, your attention span. And the child carries that same habit to the classroom. So when he or she is, in a learning environment, it's not so entertaining and it's not so dynamic in the classroom. The child switches off, is bored, is finding it tedious. So I think boredom, fatigue, being withdrawn, signs, and not going out into the open, outdoors. So it's great if someone is a swimmer, if someone plays golf or a sport, but all children are not very outdoor people. What do you do for those who want to remain at home and yet not be hooked onto the, we need to be, so I think when you say what are the symptoms, so the children actually trying to grapple and cope with this clutter on their screens, it plays out very differently for different kids, but mostly these I think would be some symptoms.
So, Charu, ideally, we should have really continued this conversation because it's very important and you bring so much of value to this conversation. So does he, even as a practitioner, as a parent. But unfortunately, we have constraints of time. So this episode will have to come to an end. I thank you very much for being here with us. Friends, should you have any questions, please feel free to put them on the B Cubed Showreel app, which you can download from App Store or Play Store. Put your questions there, and I'm sure the guests will be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you for your time and being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charu. Thank you, Sabeer.
Thank you.
Thank you.